When would you switch between GLP-1 medications? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Megan. I'm a board certified physician in internal medicine, lifestyle medicine, and obesity medicine. And this is really important because I actually prescribe these medications all the time. I actually talk to patients about their weight all the time. I've helped hundreds of patients lose weight, and I'm here to help you too. So if you're confused about your weight, if you have questions about weight medications, and if you want medically based answers to your weight questions, you are in the right place. So today we're going to talk about when is it appropriate or when should you think about switching between GLP-1 medications? So this came up because I've had a couple different questions about it. So I'll talk about this in a couple different ways. Of course, one of the first times to think about this is if somebody just isn't doing well on one of the medications. So there's certainly many times people will feel quite differently from one GLP-1 medication to another. So just because somebody is not doing well on Zepbound does not mean they won't do well on Wegovy or vice versa. So that's obviously one of the times when it would make sense to try a different medication. And of course, also this can happen for insurance reasons as well. Sometimes your insurance changes, so their formulary changes, and then you get a letter and it says, oh, well, we're no longer covering this one, but we are going to cover this one. So of course, that's kind of a logistical reason to change as well. Some people talk about cycling between the medications, like doing Mounjaro for 6 months or tirzepatide for 6 months and then changing to Wegovy and kind of flipping back and forth. I really don't advise that. I think I don't really know. Well, there's no research on it, so this is again kind of an early area. But I think you're going to get pretty similar results on both. And so far, the research has not shown that people develop a tolerance to these medications. And I've made a whole video about that recently, so you can definitely check that out. But so the research hasn't shown that people develop a tolerance. And I think if people kind of go up on one medication, stop, and then start at the beginning and go up on another medication, I think that's not going to be so helpful in terms of weight loss. I like to instead, if somebody's doing well on their medication, keep them there and then think about adding something. Maybe that's an oral medication, even better if it's, significant lifestyle changes, but that's really the way that I like to approach it. I don't really think the cycling will be so effective for them. That's usually how I approach it. So usually I just don't really see the utility in it. I don't think it will be medically helpful. I also there was a very interesting comment that came up that I'm going to read. So, since liraglutide will be generic more widely and will be more affordable, do you think it would be a good weight maintenance program for someone who loses the bulk of weight with semaglutide and then wants to switch to a more affordable maintenance program for longer? And yeah, I think that would be another really good reason to change. Of course, people are going to there is the risk that you feel very differently on Saxenda or liraglutide versus on semaglutide. But I think that's a very good point that this person raised of there still can be such a price discrepancy, and liraglutide is generic. It's still pretty expensive, at least in the Northeast, so it hasn't made that much of a difference. But we can imagine that over time, as more and more manufacturers are able to produce it, that the cost really does come down for that. And so that might be a very viable option for a lot of people to initially get the weight off and then change over to that. With the caveat being that liraglutide is not as powerful as Wegovy or Zepbound traditionally. So people may find they have some weight regain on that because people can expect to lose about 10 to 12% of their total body weight with liraglutide versus 15 to 20% with semaglutide and Zepbound respectively. So I think, is that better if somebody can do that maintenance versus like they just can't afford being on Zepbound or Wegovy anymore? That's a much better option. So I think that is an excellent point. And I think we'll probably, as more and more of these medications come out, right, in the next 5, 10 years, and more are becoming generic, I think that's probably a direction where we'll see a lot of this headed. So thank you for bringing that up. But I would love to know, perhaps some of you have already started doing that. And if you have, I would love to hear about it. I would love to hear about if liraglutide is much more affordable where you are, because it's not really, it's still several $100s. You can kind of get around it with some coupons and things like that, but I haven't seen a really drastic price drop. So if you have, I would love to hear about that. And thank you so much for watching. If you have questions afterwards, please leave them on this video or another video, and I'll add them to the list. If you want to work with me directly, I do work with people around the world on the non-medical aspects of their weight loss as a life coach as well. So I'll leave that info down below. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed already, because it's the place for medically based answers for your weight questions. And again, thank you so much for watching, and please be well.